Hello, everyone, and many thanks for joining today's stream. It is Monday, of course, 16th of March, 12 p.m. Moscow time, and as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and hopefully, you will find news segment informative and useful. I will just remind you before the news segment that during the work days, a live stream will be public. And after live stream ends, original links to the video, if you want to check out full video, original links will be available on my Patreon and Boosty pages. So if you like my work and want and can support her, please consider to join our Patreon and Boosty communities. And for members of community who prefers to watch full videos on Patreon, I will upload full video on Patreon also. So there will be option to choose, right? Of course, sir, during the stream, you can comment on any or send a question about any topic that we are discussing. I will pause the news segment, react on your super chat from Rumble, for example, or if there is a commentary or the question through PayPal or Boosty, I will react on it, and then we'll continue with the program, right? So, okay, I guess that's enough for the intro, and well, without further delay, let's go through some news now, and I will start with the developments in regards to special military operation, this proxy war, basically, that West is waging against Russian collective West. Dear friends, past several days, Russia was under heavy long-range strikes. Hundreds of drones were intercepted on daily basis, and Defense Ministry reported about work of Russian air defenses past night. And well, latest update is that 145 drones were intercepted by Russian air defense systems since yesterday's 11 p.m. and 8 a.m. of this morning. I can give you details on that. So 53 drones from this 145 were shot down over the Moscow region, including 46 drones that were flying towards Moscow itself. And dear friends, Russian capital did came under a large-scale assault by Kiev regime and NATO when it comes to this longer range drone attacks, especially in recent days. I'll give you some update on that too in a minute. Also, another 38 drones were intercepted over the Bryansk region, 11 over the Yaroslavl region, 8 over the Kaluga region, 7 over the Smolensk region, 5 each over the Rostov and Ulyanovsk regions, 4 over the Tver region, 3 each over the Voronezh and the Kostroma regions, and the Crimea, 2 over the Volgograd region, and 1 each over the Krasnodar region and the Saratov region. So very vast geography of this long-range NATO-Ukrainian strikes on Russian Federation, and well, based on statistics, seems like nowadays Kiev regime is launching more drones. Actually, formally Kiev regime, in reality it's a NATO, of course. They are launching more drones to strike deep into Russian territory that Russian militaries are launching when it comes to long-range strikes on military, logistical, and energy infrastructure, for example, of the Kiev regime on the Kiev-controlled territory. And I mentioned, dear friends, that last several days, Moscow, capital of the Russia, was under heavy assault when it comes to these long-range attacks by drones. And the mayor of Moscow just recently shared their latest updates on that. And this work of air defense systems continues constantly. There is constant waves after waves after waves of these drones. And let me give you this update here that air defense systems shut down about 250 drones approaching Moscow in past 2 days alone, according to Mayor of Moscow, Sergei Sobyanin. So really big assault on the Russian Federation. And I think we should expect further intensification of this long-range attack. Seems like NATO countries, London, first of all, London and Washington, they are trying to exhaust Russian air defenses around the capital, and maybe they are planning at some point to launch long-range missiles also towards the Moscow, once they will think that they will conclude that air defenses are exhausted enough, so that some missiles or drones again might pass through and hit Russian capitals. Of course, air defenses, Russian militaries do whatever they can, whatever is possible, to minimize the risks for their capital. And this is the case for any other city, by the way, of course, but risk is there. Risk is clearly there. And as I mentioned yesterday during the community chat, big community chat live stream, this, what is the word, man? This attrition, isn't it? Attrition, this attrition strategy that worked for quite some time in favor of Russian Federation seems like no longer that effective, at least when it comes to production of certain type of weaponry that is deployed against Russia, for example. In this particular case, of course, I'm talking about drones first and foremost, because all these hundreds and thousands of drones that are launched on daily and weekly basis to strike deep into Russia, of course, are originated from the NATO member states. And the Russian leadership itself was very clear on numerous occasions that we should not forget that capabilities of economies, combined economies of the West and the Russian Federation are very different, right? And there were some warnings earlier from different experts. I don't consider myself to be expert in economics, but it was obvious that well, drone warfare is dominating on the battlefield, right? And at some point, NATO member states would catch up with the Russian Federation with the drone production, right? And it seems like that's exactly what is happening. I guess something has to be done from a Russian side to neutralize these drone production capacities of the NATO. And if that means manufacturing plants on NATO territories that are producing drones for Kiev regime have to be struck, then be so, right? Because take a look at the numbers, by the way. On daily basis, Kiev regime, formerly Kiev regime, in reality NATO, are launching 300, 400, 500 drones to strike deep into Russian territory, and the probability that some of the drones will bypass air defenses and strike civilian areas or industrial areas is, of course, increasing with the increased number, right? Of course, Moscow most definitely is thinking about some countermeasures, and we will find out soon, I guess, what these countermeasures gonna be. And on this very topic, dear friends, let me give you this update that past week alone, Russian air defenses intercepted 5,000 drones, almost 5,000 drones that were launched by NATO and their proxy regime to strike deep into Russian territory. 5,000. So you can imagine volume that is necessary, volume of production of the interceptor missiles, for example, that is necessary to deal with such a volume of incoming targets, right, aerial targets. It's, of course, not just expensive surface-to-air missiles. Interceptor drones are being, of course, deployed too. Also, there is mobile air defense units that are operating and quite effectively bringing down these hostile drones, right? NATO drones, the regime drones. But nevertheless, it's something that we have to keep in mind. It's something that we have to keep in mind. Maybe we are approaching a point when NATO will produce and launch so many drones that they will actually manage to overwhelm Russian air defenses. I think risk is real, and that's why I'm saying that if necessary, maybe we have to take some action and obliterate a couple of manufacturing plants in Germany, in France, in UK, right, that are producing drones, for example, right? No worries, no nuclear war gonna happen because of it, but leadership of Germany, France, and UK will think twice at least, right, before they will send some more drones and then brag about it, right, to strike deep into Russia. Yet again, it all depends on Moscow, of course, Kremlin, what kind of decisions they will make. But I mean, you can see numbers, right? You can see numbers, by the way. It's something that hard to ignore. Also, dear friends, you might have a question about possible negotiations between Moscow and Kiev, Moscow, Washington, and Kiev. I believe initially next round of trilateral talks, for example, was planned for 11th of March, but it did not happen. Or formally, it should take place in Istanbul, Turkey, but it did not happen. And of course, press spokesman of the Russian president, Dmitry Peskov, was asked about this matter, and he said that there is a pause now in negotiations on Ukraine. Right, so we should not expect anytime soon, I guess, next round of talks to take place. So negotiations on Ukraine has been put on hold, with the US focusing on other matters, Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov stated. And we all know what is that other matters that US is focused nowadays. It's, of course, developments in the Middle East. Other statements of Peskov I can give you. Europeans are spending all their energy on convincing Kiev to continue the war. They do not want to help their peace process. This is true. We all know this is happening. And these policies of their globalist control regimes in Europe will continue, of course, until they feel like they can do anything and everything against Russia, including killing Russian citizens with impunity. So only way to influence the situation is to use only language that Western elites understand, European elites understand, and this language is a language of pain and force, right? So statements alone, I mean, not enough, right? We already heard so many statements, and so what, right? And so what? Did anything change in the behavior of the Western elites or the European elites? Not really. Representative of France visited Russia, but the visit did not produce any significant results. All sorts of rumors are circulating on internet. According to some, Ushakov, aide of Russian president, was very tough on these French representatives. He basically, allegedly, told them to go and F themselves, right? He had no interest, and that means Russian president had no interest to interact with them, I guess, right? But this is the rumors. Ushakov himself did not say nothing, I believe, on the matter. And Peskov mentioned that, yes, there were some elements were came to Moscow that were representing French leadership, and it did not went anywhere, right, that visit. Did not produce any good results, or at least. Also, Peskov said the dynamics on the front are positive, and Moscow is open to resolving the conflict. Okay, dynamics are positive, and on this matter, and the Russian militaries, of course, are doing whatever is possible in circumstances when their hands being tied behind their backs, right? Russian militaries and security services are doing everything and anything to achieve all their tasks that they have from Russian leadership. But of course, their tremendous work, extremely risky one, would be much more easier, or much less, I will say. There is nothing easy when it comes to warfare, obviously, but probably work of the Russian security services and their militaries will be less risky if they will have a green light to adapt and implement all their necessary measures and the policies that they consider are needed, because they know better than anybody else can, right, what kind of steps are necessary to be taken to fast track their victory, which is absolutely inevitable. No one has any doubts about it, of course. But nevertheless, even though hands of Russian security services and militaries are tied behind their backs due to absence of their green light to adopt all the necessary policies, Well, we have progress in zone of special military operation anyways, and well, according to number of sources, Russian troops have liberated their settlement of Charivner in the Zaporozhye region, east of Orechov. And let me show you on the map, dear friends, where this settlement is located. So this is Zaporozhye sector, of course, and this is Charivner settlement, which is, according to some reports, are under Russian control. Defense Ministry did not yet confirm this progress. And take a look at the Orechov, by the way. This is Orechov, of course, a major stronghold of Kiev regime in the central part of this sector, Zaporozhye sector. And clearly, Russian troops are getting closer and closer, right, to Orechov from eastern side too. And there is expectations that maybe before end of this summer of 2026, we will see some sectoral scale offensive operation from Russian militaries in Zaporozhye sector, also among other directions, where possible, of course, well, might be the case. We just have to wait and find out. But progress of the special military operation continues, of course. Initiative is in Russian hands all along the front line, and in no circumstances, either NATO or their proxy Ukrainian Nazis and fascists will be able to regain initiative, period. Let's talk about, of course, Middle Eastern developments now. I try to be fast, by the way, so that this live stream would not last for, I don't know, 3 hours. Right, and right now I see super chat from Scooby on Rumble, and I guess what Scooby wants to say with this super chatter that I'm gonna show you right now is that probably he's agree with me that this is NATO attacks. This is NATO attacks on the Russian Federation, and it has to be noticed always, right? It's Russia is engaged in military operations in a war, basically, not just with the Kiev regime, but with the collective West, right? This is a proxy war that entire collective West, with the exception of a couple of countries, are waging against the Russian Federation, right? And I think it is necessary to mention that we are in a war with NATO to have a better understanding what's going on, actually. So, Scooby, thank you very much for your super chatter and the $2 donation. Thank you. And hello, by the way. Hello, everybody. Hello, everyone. And let's continue now with the topic of Middle East. And you know what, dear friends, in case you also want to use this super chat feature on Rumble, but are not familiar with my channel there, let me drop link in the chat, in the YouTube chat. So yes, you're gonna see now a link to Rumble channel, and so yes, either subscriber on my Rumble channel, or whenever you want, you can use super chat feature there. Of course, it's called Rant, to send any question, commentary, and support my work by doing so. Okay, dear friends, let's go through some news in regards to developments in the Middle East. Of course, world is focused on this topic, on this matter, understandably so. This conflict affects entire world, at least in terms of energy security. And when it comes to energy security, I mean, it linked with the entire economical security, economical developments, right? Pricing and so on. So it is understandable that the world is watching what's going on in the Middle East. And well, you know, dear friends, this war is extremely unpopular in the US, right? And US is leading the charge, obviously, alongside Israel. And well, I was predicting and continue to think so that there is a high probability that U.S. intelligence services, CIA, Israeli Secret Service, Mossad, British Secret Service, MI6 might come up with some false flag operation of a large scale, right? And then blame Iran for it, so that in attempt to ramp up the support for this war inside the U.S., right? And Ali Larijani, one of the most influential, if not the most influential political figure in Iran, actually commented on this issue. And I think we have to keep this statement from Larijani in mind, because this is a highly probable, it is highly probable that this might actually happen. He also spoke about this topic. And so he wrote on his social page, I heard that the remnants of Epstein team have devised a conspiracy to create an incident similar to 9/11 and frame Iran for it. Iran is fundamentally opposes to such terrorist programs and has no war with the American people, Larijani is saying. So if anything happened, by the way, and I believe this is true, by the way, there is no need for Iranians to commit any terrorist attack in US or anywhere else, by the way, and basically force locals to turn on Iran. It's counterproductive, right? So Iran would never did this kind of stuff, even though Western propaganda loves to frame Iran as a state sponsor of terrorism. In reality, Iran did not really support any terrorism whatsoever. Western propaganda might say that Hezbollah is a terrorist organization, or the Houthis, Ansar Allah movement in Yemen, but these are resistance movements, right? These are not terrorist organizations. When your country is occupied and attacked, you have every right to resist. And there are organizations that are in charge in Palestine, by the way. PLA one isn't it? Fatah basically is one that is charged in the West Bank, at least whatever parts of the West Bank they still control, and it's not that much really. The rest is occupied by Israel, and Hamas in Gaza Strip are seen by majority of this world as resistance organizations, right? And even though majority condemns attacks on civilians that Hamas was engaged in during their October 7, majority acknowledges that these are resistance movements, right? And majority also recognized that during the October 7, majority of targets of Hamas were actually militaries, Israeli militaries and security services staff, right? And investigation needs to be done to find out, was it Israeli forces that were operating under this specific order that they have, or it was Hamas who killed most of the civilians that died. There is a high probability that Israelis killed most of the civilians on that day under this specific order that they had, right? To deny Hamas to take prisoners or the hostages. Israeli militaries were authorized to open fire on those civilians. And this is well known at this point. This is well established fact, by the way, right? If you can, dear friends, remind me the order, that specific order that was deployed by Israelis. I just cannot remember the word, right? I'm monitoring now. I'm monitoring chat. Don't you remember, dear friends, that order that Israeli militaries had to kill their own civilians? Come on. Anyways, Iran, what I want to say, by the way, that Iran is not a state of sponsor of terrorism, right? And well, Ali Joni says they have no intent to attack civilians anywhere, including Hannibal order. Yes, that's right. Thank you very much, planter pot people. That was a Hannibal directive, right? And this is well-established fact. This is not some conspiracy theory or something. This is just well-established facts, and Gray Zone and many other outlets there did a great deal of work on establishing all the situation circumstances that took place on that day. Let's continue with some other news. So Ali Larijani, issuing Secretary of the Security Council of the Iran, is issuing this warning for everybody, basically, throughout the world, and of course for Americans, first and foremost, for ordinary American citizens, so that they would know that Iran is not in a war with them, with the civilians, right? And if any large-scale or any scale terrorist attack happens and then will be blamed on Iran, that's Mossad, CIA, MI6, and their assets. That's it. This should be clear for everyone. And when it comes to false flag operations that Israel and US already are conducting in numerous numbers throughout the Middle East, for example, Foreign Minister of Iran, Abbas Araghchi, spoke about it. And let me give you some details of his statements. The head of Iran's Foreign Minister, Abbas Araghchi, claimed that the US developed a drone Lucas, which resembles Iran's Shahid, is being used to strike Arab countries. This is true, by the way. This is true. US reverse engineered, basically, Shahid drone. And if you remember, when there was recently, about a week ago, there was a drone attacks on Nakhichevan region of the Azerbaijan, isn't it? There was a videos in which you can clearly see Delta Wing type drone, right? And I said straight away that, by the way, it's not just Iran that produces this type of drones. There are many countries, including Israel and US, that are producing Delta Wing drones, right? And it's a mistake automatically to assume that whenever you see Delta Wing drone is a Iranian drone. No, it's not the case. And of course, and I was saying false flag operations are taking place all over the region because Iranians were very clear that they are not attacking civilian targets, right? They are not attacking military targets even, of Gulf monarchies, for example, because they are not in a war with them. All they do is take out locations of US militaries and Israeli assets, right? Military bases, and whenever US military or Israeli military and secure intelligence assets were transferred to hotels, for example, those hotels were designated as a legit target and were taken out. Understandably so, right? But Iran didn't target no military installation of either Saudi Arabia or Qatar or Bahrain or any of those countries, right? UAE. So definitely Abbas Araghchi has a point, and I think at this point Gulf monarchies know perfectly well that their energy infrastructure in most of the cases were attacked by Israelis and Americans, but they cannot do much, right? They cannot even make statement about it because they are afraid. They're just simply afraid of Israelis and Americans, man, these Gulf monarchies. And I'm a bit surprised even. I'm even a bit surprised that despite the fear, these Gulf monarchies did not agree to enter the war against Iran, didn't agree on the demands from the Israeli side and the Western side, American side, to enter the war against Iran. And they didn't agree because that would be suicide for them. They know this, right? That would be suicide for them. So therefore, I guess at that point, when this kind of demand was put up to them, they said, you know what? If I launch a war, I'm gonna die. If I did not launch a war, you might kill me anyways. So therefore, I would not launch this war. And then, okay, then kill me. Maybe that was their calculus, right? And it worked. At least for now, it worked because it's technically, of course, US and Israel can eliminate all these monarchies in the Middle East. But from media perspective, that would be disaster, because how are they going to freaking explain, right? They're going to blame on Iran, exterminating all these royal families that they themselves created, really. Brits created, right? But Yeah. Anyways, and Americans were there too. I mean, it's okay. Okay, let's go through some other news, other statements from Arakchi. According to him, Israel may be behind attacks on civilian targets in Arab countries, and not maybe, but definitely, Israel is behind these attacks, and US is behind these attacks, and UK is behind these attacks. 100%, by the way. There is no maybe there. There is no maybe there. It's 100%, right? 100%. If you're not attacking, then it's definitely not affecting aliens from Andromeda Galaxy, right? It's Israelis, US, UK, right? These three always are engaged in all sorts of dodgy terrorist activity throughout the world. We are ready to establish an investigative commission together with the regional countries to investigate the targets that have been attacked. Good take from Tehran. Let's investigate, you know? Let's take debris of those drones and then check it, right? Is it our drones or it's an Israeli drone or US drone? That's a good initiative, you know? Why not? We want to know true, isn't it? Who is attacking those energy facilities, for example, throughout the region? And Abbas Araghchi also said that our strikes are aimed only at US bases and their interests in the region. Factual statements, by the way. Factual statements. That's it, right? And also, of course, topic of negotiations, topic of possible ceasefire is being discussed, is being talked about, of course. And well, let me give you a video, dear friends, of one episode when Abbas Araghchi spoke about it. You know, U.S. president is pushing this narrative that Iranians are asking for ceasefire and he is against it. I mean, really, if anyone is asking for a ceasefire, it's the U.S. actually, and it's Trump himself indicated on several occasions, at least, that he's in search of an off-ramp now. He's not going to get one because globalists, Zionists, I mean, they're not going to allow Trump to pull the U.S. out of this war now. Not happening, but clearly, based on statements that I hear from Washington, they are looking for an off-ramp, kind of, right? But let me give you a video when Abbas Araghchi was asked about ceasefire talks and stuff, and just look at this.
Said this weekend he is not ready to make a deal with Iran because the terms aren't good enough yet. His administration is saying this war could last another 3.5 weeks or so. Has Iran asked for a ceasefire?
No, we never asked for a ceasefire, and we have never asked even for negotiation. We are ready to defend ourselves as long as it takes, and this is what we have done so far, and we continue to do that until President Trump comes to the point that this is an illegal war with no victory, and there are people being killed only because President Trump wants to have fun. This is what he has said.
Have fun?
We are not. Yes, this is what he said, that they are sinking, ships and targeting different places because it is fun. And the Secretary of War has said that there is no mercy. Mm-hmm. And this is actually a war crime. Even saying that is a war crime. So this is a war. This is a war of choice by President Trump and the United States, and we are going to continue our self-defense.
Well,
so Abbas Araghchi is quite clear there. That Iran has a terms, basically. We can interpret his statements in a way that there is a terms that U.S. has to agree on, and then maybe ground will be good enough to get engaged in some negotiations, in some talks, or maybe not, right? But Tehran is definitely not asking for negotiations or for a ceasefire or for anything, really. And why would they? Iran was twice attacked by US, both times. Tehran was engaged in negotiations. These attacks happened during the negotiations, right? So it just makes no sense for Iranians, by the way. And I think, as I mentioned yesterday, I think Iranian leadership had found the peace, by the way, with the idea. Must be terrifying, but I think they find the peace with the idea that they're all gonna get killed. Today, tomorrow, day after, but they all gonna get killed, right? And so once you find peace with this idea, I guess you are losing fear at that moment, at that point, right? I think they are willing to go all the way. All will they try now, Iranian leadership, to make sure that once they've been killed, there is a replacements in place, right? And system gonna continue to work, right? People and country gonna be able to resist, continue resistance, right? And as of now, they are doing quite effective job. Let's acknowledge this. It's a third week, isn't it? It's a third week, and Iran is still resisting, still fighting, still launching retaliatory strikes with the missiles and drones. And reports are that Iran did not even yet start using the missiles that were produced in past year or two. Most of the missiles that Iranian militaries are launching still to this moment are old type of missiles. Most of them, right? Anyways, let's continue with some other news. And of course, Strait of Hormuz, by the way, Strait of Hormuz does makes headlines. Nowadays, it seems like attention is being shifted to this matter instead of military developments. Maybe because both sides, Israel and US on one hand and Iran on the other hand, have decreased their military operations, right? One reason could be that they have depleted their munitions significantly. Other reason could be that they are preparing next phase of this military operations, right? And so attention is shifted towards the Hormuz Strait because of their increase in oil prices. There are so many experts, isn't it, nowadays, that are sharing information that goodness me, man. Wow. Ничего себе, блин. I forgot to, in a notebook was not really charging. And yeah, thanks God I spotted this. Anyways, there are some experts that are saying that oil price is going to go like $200 in 2 weeks' time if Strait of Hormuz is not open. Some experts are saying that, well, world economy is already destined for a recession and there's something extraordinary going to happen. There are too many speculations, right? I guess we just have to wait and see. But when it comes to Strait itself, well, I was reporting, by the way. I don't think members of our community who regularly watches my videos will be surprised to hear that it's a Western ruling class that is shutting down Strait of Hormuz. Iranian side was very clear. Vessels from countries that are not hostile to Iran can pass through the strait without any issues, right? Without any issues. Vessels that are linked to hostile countries, Israel, US, and their allies, well, sorry, those vessels are not allowed. But other countries, by the way, I mean, you're welcome. Move around with your vessels, no issues there, right? This is the official position of Tehran. And RIA Novosti, and well-known one, by the way, well-known position of Iran since the beginning of the escalation, basically, since the beginning of this war that Israel and US launched on Iran. Strait of Hormuz is closed only to US, Israel, and their allies. That's it. This statement is coming from Abbas Araghchi, again, foreign minister. Right? This is official position of Tehran. So movement through the Strait of Hormuz is restricted only for United States, Israel, and their allies. Iranian Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi stated. And therefore, you tell me, dear friends, why vessels are not moving through a strait, vessels that are linked to other countries? You know why? Because of the London's Lloyds. Those vessels not being insured, right? And without insurance, companies that are owners of these vessels, they are not risking, they are not taking no risks. Maritime shipment and stuff like that was basically over-focused on London, right? On London's Lloyds and British financial system, basically, Western financial system, right? And now it's a Western ruling class that is keeping this strait shut. Not Iran, but it's a West, right? It's a Western world, and all this noise about a Strait of Hormuz have not been opened, and we're gonna send military vessels, so we're gonna do this and that. This is all just a deception, by the way. This is all just a deception to keep population of this world, especially in the Western world, misled, right? So that when they will go to gas station, I don't know, and they will pay like double of price to fill up the gas tank, well, they will blame Iran for this, right? They wouldn't blame Western elites, American elites, or European elites. No, they will blame Iran. That's what Western elites want, right? And that's why they are pushing this nonsense that, well, it's Iran that is shutting down Strait of Hormuz. No, not really. It's a Western elites that keeping this strait shut. And we have more and more indicators that this is true, by the way. For example, well, France and Italy opened talks with Iran in hope of securing safe passage, right? I don't know about France and Italy, by the way. They are allies of US and Israel. But as of now, I don't really see any reports of direct or indirect involvement, either of these countries in a war against Iran. I know France sent their tremendous armada, by the way, massive armada towards the Eastern Mediterranean, 8 frigates, 2 helicopter carriers, assault vessels, by the way, 1 aircraft carrier, right? I mean, there are many questions. Why? What the hell? What's going on, right? Why are you doing this if you are not preparing to enter a war with Iran? And there might be some explanations for this, right? Maybe they are using this crisis around Iran and the Middle East to basically bully Turkey, right? There is tensions in the Eastern Mediterranean exactly between Turkey and Greece historically, and between Turkey and Italy, Turkey and France. So it's about islands, by the way, about territories, and recently there was some gas fields found offshore of some islands there, and it's about that energy and the control of the territories, right? And maybe France deployed in Eastern Mediterranean this significant armada to basically intimidate Turkey. Well, might be the case, and if so, we would not see these vessels heading towards the Middle East in that case, right? Let's wait and see. Italy has military presence in the Middle East, but as of now, they're only taking casualties, as French do. One French military was killed, several wounded. Italy lost at least 1 HQ-9 Reaper drone, right? That was destroyed during the Iranian drone strike, but Italy is saying that they suffered no casualties in the manpower. In any ways, theoretically speaking, maybe Iran will allow vessels linked to France and Italy, first and foremost, LNG tankers, by the way, from Qatar, to pass safely through Hormuz Strait. Maybe they will allow, but I think even if Tehran says, okay, both these countries, France and Italy, going to face some issues with the UK, right? Because yet again, if vessels would not be insured, they might not move anywhere, right? And also, by the way, as a confirmation that Iran's foreign minister is saying the truth, that for friendly nations, or Strait of Hormuz is open. Move around there as much as you want, right? And move goods in and out of the Gulf. And for example, India's foreign minister, Jai Shankar, stated that talks with Iranian counterparts are yielding results. Two Indian flagged LPG tankers, Shivalik and Nandra Devi, carrying over 90,000 metric tons of LPG. It's a liquefied petroleum gas, by the way. It's not a liquefied natural gas, but petroleum gas, crossed the Strait of Hormuz on Saturday, yesterday, en route to India. Okay, great news. Great news right there, isn't it? And the confirmation, factual confirmation, right? That friendly nations are free to pass through Hormuz, Strait of Hormuz without any issues with Iran, right? And I guess these vessels, these two LPG tankers of India, probably they were not insured, right? But New Delhi used its influence over the companies that are owners of these tankers and say, you know what, just do it. We don't give a damn what London's Lloyd's says or does. And they did. You see, I think Chinese vessels will do the same. And vessels from other countries that are either neutral or friendly towards Iran, right? And we should keep in mind that about 80% of energy that comes out from Persian Gulf through Hormuz Strait is directed towards the global south. Oil, at least, oil, right? When it comes to LNG, numbers might be different. Europe is heavily relied on Qatari LNG, Australian LNG, of course, American LNG. But now when Qatar is out of business, at least for a time being, of course, this makes situation all over the Europe in terms of gas supplies extremely difficult, and I believe prices already are skyrocketing on the gas there. Members of our community from Europe can share in the chat what is going on in this regard, and I think longer this crisis continue, there is a higher and higher probability that maybe European countries would not be able to fill up underground storage facilities, underground gas storage facilities for the next winter season. And that will be a big deal for Europe, of course, by the way. That will be massive, that will have massive negative consequences for the European economy, for the European societies, social fabric and so on. But nevertheless, we have a factual confirmation that Iran's foreign minister is saying the truth. They are not blocking Strait of Hormuz for vessels that are linked to friendly countries. And if those countries are unable to move goods in and out of the region, questions then should be directed to London. Questions should be directed to the Western world, right? Western financial and the banking system, not towards the Iran, because they have nothing to do with it. Right. Anyways, well, meanwhile, under the pretext of this talks about Gulf of Strait of Hormuz and so on, U.S. began deploying its military assets, ground troops. Wall Street Journal, for example, reported that U.S. command is sending additional marine units and warships to the Middle East due to increased Iranian attacks near the Strait of Hormuz. Iranians are attacking only assets, only vessels that are linked to U.S. and other enemies that are engaged in hostilities in the war against Iran. They are not attacking no one else, right? But pretext is there. U.S. Western ruling class failed basically to push regional monarchies, Gulf monarchies, to enter the war with Iran. They failed, at least as of now. They failed to provoke Azerbaijan to enter a military confrontation with Iran, even though they did try. They bombed Azerbaijan with their drones, right, pretending that it was Iranian. But they failed as of now, at least. They even failed to push Kurds, Iraqi Kurds, by the way, to and desperation, I guess they are beginning to to deploy their own troops, right? But this would not work, man. This would not work. I said even before, way before US and Israel launched this war against Iran, that Western ruling class wants full-scale destabilization of entire region, not just Iran, but entire region, right? And I was predicting, by the way, when US and Israel will launch war against Iran, they will go after, not just after political and military leadership, but or religious leadership, but they will go after infrastructure, right? Not just state institutions, but also civilian infrastructure, hospitals, schools, water supplies, and the rest of it, right? That's exactly what is happening. US and Israel, they are pounding civilian infrastructure in Iran in a hope that this will create such a devastating situation on the ground that people will begin fighting each other, right, for survival. But as of now, yet again, as of now, if anything, Iranian people are demonstrating unity and strength, despite all the tremendous bombing campaigns that they are facing literally on daily basis, right? And the deployment of Western troops, US troops or troops from any other country is not going to resolve the issue, right? For the Western ruling class. They already failed. It's just official, right? They failed, by the way. They're not going to be able to descend Iran into civil war. They're not going to be able to provoke a war between Gulf monarchies and Iran, and engulf entire region into war on ethnic and sectarian lines to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and Hormuz Strait for the years to come. They failed in all of that. Only success they have is Gulf is shut down, like Strait of Hormuz is actually shut down, right? Not because of Iran, but as I explained, because of their Western financial and banking system, because of the Lloyds of London, right? Insurance, right? British, they have monopoly, by the way. Without their insurance, vessels just are afraid to move anywhere, right? In many cases. But this situation around Strait of Hormuz will be resolved. I think India is just a first step. Chinese vessels gonna begin moving in and out, vessels from other countries, right? And at some point, either even without insurance, that is, they would not care, right? Give it another week or two, and London, no one will remember about taking Lloyd's, right? And at that point, probably if we will see attacks on commercial vessels, those attacks will be committed by Israeli and US militaries. They will strike with the drones, right? They have drones that look exactly like Shahed drones. So they will use those drones or something else, right, to target these vessels to keep Hormuz Strait shut down. And at that point, I think when this will happen, and this is going to happen, at that point, I think Gulf monarchies will have to make a choice, right? They have to expel US military bases from the region. They have to demand US bases to be expelled from, withdrawn from their territories. So I'm cautiously optimistic that Western ruling class will actually fail in this attempt to destabilize the whole region and shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and Hormuz Strait for years to come. They did manage to do this for a couple of weeks, as of now, to shut down navigation, but it's not going to last for years, right? And so I'm cautiously optimistic that soon Western ruling class will have no option but to agree on de-escalation. What other options do they have? They will have to agree on a de-escalation. Question is what kind of conditions Iran will come up with, right? Because they are already making it clear that in order to end hostilities, they want US to compensate for everything. And we are talking about, hundreds of billions of dollars. Probably Iran already suffered their, maybe in terms of financial losses, right? In terms of worth of everything that was damaged, nothing to be said about killed and the people that needs to get their compensations. Maybe we are talking about already over $1 trillion that US will have to pay to Iran. So I don't know how talks will work out, but I think we are getting closer and closer to that moment. Maybe another 2, 3, 4 weeks, and eventually US non-ruling class will back down. And that means the US and Israel will back down. They lost, man. They lost. That's it. Anyways, let's continue with some other news. And well, I want to share this information. When I was talking about France and Italy being engaged with Iran on the matter of allowing their vessels to move around freely into Strait of Hormuz, well, Italy's prime minister, who is formerly ally of Trump, Meloni, Giorgia Meloni, condemned this U.S.-Israeli war on Iran and called it illegal. And this is good. This is correct. Stand from Rome, of course. Good on them. Good decision. But and this might actually help Iran to make decision about vessels that are linked to Italy, for example, right? But this stand from Rome may not go down well with London and with globalists, right? And they might strike back. They will strike back. They will strike back, right? And of course, this statement will not go down well with Washington. But at this point, no one really cares what Washington has to say, I guess, because the globalists just play with them like, I don't know, man. Globalists and the Zionists played with the Washington like there is no tomorrow, man. Trump should just go and kill himself, man. And entire his administration, these freaking morons, right? They should just kill themselves if they have any dignity left in themselves, right? They've been played so hard, man, and I don't know what U.S. citizens are doing, man. Why they are not demanding impeachment of this terrorist regime that they have there, genocidal maniacs, right, led by Trump and whomever else there. Unfortunately, reports are that Trump supporters, majority of Trump supporters, allegedly are in support of this war. And I mean, if this is true, if this is not a manipulation with the data, then I'm a bit disappointed in the MAGA people, big time disappointed even, because if I remember correctly, this "Make America Great Again" or "America First" was exactly about what this slogan said: America first and make America great again, right? That means be focused on America, no more freaking wars, right? And Trump already bombed more countries than any other US president. And now he launched a war of choice against Iran, and the majority of Republicans are in support of this. Majority of this MAGA or America First people are in support of this. I find it difficult to believe in this, man. Probably there is some manipulation when it comes to these social studies and stuff like that, right? Because I just cannot believe, man, that this is true. One of the biggest voices in the conservative movement in US, Tucker Carlson, Dave Smith, Megyn Kelly, and there is many others, right? Candace Owens, they all are against this war. And they have massive followings, right? So if all these people are against this war, then who is for it then, right? I don't know. But well, Trump, while being engaged in this deception operation, he's gonna play now. He's gonna play alongside of a globalist because he don't really have a choice. If he stops, he's gonna be removed from White House almost immediately, right? And put in jail. So he is on a hook, right? And will be on a hooker to the last of his days. And so Trump said that U.S. Navy will soon start escorting tankers through the Strait of Hormuz. He made this kind of statement on several occasions now, even though, according to Western media, Reuters, for example, U.S. Navy refuses requests for military escorts. So which one is then? I mean, Trump should talk to militaries there in U.S., right? And they should come up with some similar stance. Which one is? Are they going to escort the vessels or are they not going to escort the vessels? But this is not even a full picture, by the way. I mean, it's a mess in Washington, total mess, right? U.S. president stated that there are several countries allegedly ready to secure Strait of Hormuz, right? What a horrible freaking advertising is this, man. Fuck's sake. And so, sorry, dear friends, I cannot control these freaking ads that are popping up on the pages there, on the media outlets. So, US President Donald Trump said the number of countries are ready to join our effort to ensure security in the Strait of Hormuz. This was told to NBC News by Trump during their interview, and I don't know, man. I don't know if we can trust anything that comes out from Trump nowadays. There was another report from Axios that Trump considers seizing Iran's Harg Island. I spoke about such possibilities before, right? That they might actually go ahead and annex this Harg. It's a Harg Island, not a Harg Island or Karg Island, as Westerners say. It's a Harg Island, right? So Trump is exploring the possibility to seizing Iran's key oil terminal on Harg Island. According to a publication, the movie's been seen as a way to unblock the Strait of Hormuz, which is still under Iranian control. I mean, this makes no sense, right? Because this Harg Island, by the way, is on the northern side of Persian Gulf, right? Let me show you. That's the Harg Island here. And it is true that some 90% of Iranian oil is exported from these terminals, right, that are built here. So this is a Harg Island. Look where it is, man. Almost in the end of the Persian Gulf, right there. And this is Hormuz Strait. So seizing this freaking island there, how that gonna help you to free Hormuz Strait? Are they? I mean, this is deception on such a primitive deception, by the way, that West is engaged now with all these talks about easing the navigation through Persian Gulf and securing the navigation. They don't care about that. They are okay with their navigation being closed, man. That's what they wanted to begin with, right? But they have to explain to the world community, isn't it? To their own public and to the world community what the hell is going on. And they are coming up with more and more nonsense. And now this one that they're going to seize Harg Island, and that will somehow, island here, will somehow free the navigation in Hormuz Strait when nobody is asking, right? Whenever Western so-called elites are making statements or Western public figures, why nobody is challenging them and nobody is asking questions, right questions? That it's London's Lloyd's that is not insuring the vessels, and this is the reason why most of their ships are just refusing to go through Hormuz Strait, because Iran is saying for how many days now that, well, if you are not linked to US or Israel or the allies that are engaged in this war against us, Iran, then you are free to go, man. We have no issue with you. Go through Hormuz Strait anytime you want, as many times you want, right? Just do it. But those companies, those vessels, right? And unfortunately, Western so-called public figures or the politicians have not been challenged. No one is asking the right questions. That it's not Iran, it's the West that is actually shutting down navigation, right? And when it comes to this island, by the way, I mean, I have a question. Technically speaking, yes, US can try and occupy this island. They can send their assets on helicopters, right? For example, from either UAE or Kuwait or Bahrain, Qatar. It's doable. It's doable. I don't think U.S., even though U.S. has sent their assault vessels, right, with the thousands of Marines on the board towards the Middle East, I don't think that assault vessels or helicopter carriers or whatever we're going to call it, I don't think those vessels are going to be able to pass through Hormuz Strait, right? So therefore, probably there will be some air raid, aerial or amphibious operation. It's not correct. There will be landing operation conducted through helicopters, with the helicopters, right? They might use some speedboats also, American troops, right? There might be some, amphibious operation too. Technically speaking, it's doable. They can do it. But, okay, they seize the island, right? Which is not that far away from a coastal line of Iran. And what they gonna do there? If Pentagon will go ahead, if White House will go ahead with this suicidal operation, if they send their troops on this island, I mean, occupation of the island, initial stage, gonna be bloody, right? Because Iran has its own assets there. Even though island was heavily bombed in the previous 24 to 48 hours, well, Iranians still there and they're gonna resist, right? They're gonna resist. But okay, let's say Americans managed to seize their island, not just Khark Island, but this neighboring one too. Hanko Island or whatever. Okay, let's say they manage to seize both these islands. And then what US troops gonna do, man? They're gonna be shelled by Iranian artillery day in, day out, constantly, right? They're gonna be struck with Iran's tactical missiles, right? Short-range tactical missiles, short and medium-range tactical missiles. So they're gonna be sitting ducks, right, on this island. So it makes no sense, really. Can you explain to me how this occupation of this island makes any sense from any standpoint? If Washington thinks that, well, they're gonna seize this island and then what? Force Iran to capitulate? It does not work this way, right? They're not gonna force Iran to capitulate. They don't even, Western ruling class don't even want Iran to capitulate. They want civil war there. That was the initial plan. Civil war on ethnic and sectarian lines, and then this war to spread throughout the region to ensure long-term closure of the navigation in Hormuz Strait, through Hormuz Strait and the Persian Gulf, right? So truly, this reports that the U.S. militaries might occupy island, this Khark Island, makes no sense whatsoever from any standpoint. They might go ahead and actually take assault and establish control over those islands, but what next? And so what? I mean, insane, man. I'm telling you, man, Andrei Martyanov, many of you are familiar, of course, with Andrei Martyanov, military expert with Russian roots, but military expert from US. He's correct when he says that in US militaries, led by freaking morons, people that are literally morons, right? Have no necessary professional education to lead the armies, right? They have no freaking idea how to plan operations and how to execute the operations, right? Freaking morons. And their first 3 weeks of this war that they launched on Iran already demonstrated that, isn't it? And now they are considering to occupy Khark Island. I mean, really? What for? What they gonna achieve with this? Maybe the calculus is that if they seize this island and if Iran is not able to export the oil, then Iran will go ahead and bomb energy infrastructure of neighboring Gulf monarchies, right? But this will not happen. Iranians understand perfectly well what's going on, what is the goal of the Western ruling class. Iranians know perfectly well, as it is the case with the Gulf monarchies, right? They know perfectly well that Western elites want to provoke a regional war on ethnic and sectarian lines and to engulf with their fire as all the countries there, right? So even if Khark Island is seized by US, Iran will not attack civilian energy infrastructure of its Gulf neighbors. Iran will just find their other way to export the oil, right? From Caspian Sea, for example, oil can be exported to Russia, and then Russia will take care of it. Or there is other way. Oil can be exported from Iran to China from land bridge, let's say Tajikistan, Uzbekistan, Kazakhstan, and then China. But in no circumstances, Iran will go ahead with their attacks on its Gulf neighbors if those neighbors are not attacking Iran directly. So as I said, this possible assault on Khark Island makes no freaking sense whatsoever, right? But Americans might go ahead with this operation anyways. They might actually do it. What else have I bookmarked, by the way? As I already said, Khark Island was attacked previously. And even though Trump is saying that there are a number of countries that are going to assist us to establish control over the Hormuz Strait, this is all deception operation. And many countries among the NATO allies of US are saying that, you know what, no thanks, we are not playing no games here. We are not part of it. At least this is a public statement. France, for example, Macron stated that they are engaged only in a defensive and protective operations. Their assets are stationed in the Eastern Mediterranean, and I think deployment of significant maritime assets of France in Eastern Mediterranean is probably directed against Turkey, right? More so, I think, right? Because as I said, tensions are high between Turkey and Greece around some islands, by the way. Nothing to be said about Cyprus being occupied by Turkey, half of a Cyprus almost, right? And so there are some islands offshore which some oil or gas fields being found, and Turkey claims those territories, and Greece disagrees, and other countries disagree. Greece is not alone, by the way. France is in support, and others, right? So, I mean, no one should be surprised, by the way, if next several weeks we might even see military confrontation between Turkey and Greece, Turkey and France, and other allies of the Athens, right? Anyways, France said no thanks to deploy its assets to patrol Hormuz Strait, and well, UK is also kind of saying the same, although UK is engaged in this war, by the way, against Iran already. Stammer, allegedly, according to Telegraph, refuses to send warships to Strait of Hormuz. I believe Germany's leadership said the same, that they're not going to send no vessels to secure Strait of Hormuz. Why would they, man? I mean, why would they? As I said, Western ruling class wants to keep this waterway shut down. So why would they open this waterway? And also we should keep in mind that it's the Western ruling class that keeps this waterway shut because of the London's Lloyds, right? They are refusing to insure the vessels. It's not Iranians, man. It's not Iranians. Iranians are targeting vessels that are linked to Israel, US. Maybe they will target vessels that are linked to UK because UK, as I said, is directly engaged in this war against Iran. And this is the proof, for example, by the way, right now on your screen, B-52 bombers that are taking off from UK and are bombing Iran, right? So UK is directly engaged. UK's territory is used for this bombing campaign. And on these pictures, by the way, you can see AGM-158 JSSM cruise missiles on the wings of these B-52 bombers of the US. And there are probably, I mean, here on these pictures alone, I mean, 2, 4, 10 missiles are on wings, right? 5 on each side there, and there are probably another 10 or maybe more inside the bombing bay of the bomber, right? And so they are taking off from UK, these bombers, right? So British vessels, British commercial vessels might well be attacked in Hormuz Strait by Iranians. But Chinese vessels not going to be attacked, Japanese vessels not going to be attacked, South Korean vessels not going to be attacked, Russian vessels not going to be attacked for sure, right? And so only reason why these countries cannot use Hormuz Strait now is because of the freaking insurance that was denied to them by London, not by Tehran, but by London, right? So of course, Western ruling class, even though they are probably realizing by now that enlarge their operation, their plans to destabilize whole Middle East is failed. Well, at least they managed to temporarily to distract the navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait, and they will try to keep it this way as much as possible and as long as possible. That's what they're going to do now. They're going to try to keep Hormuz Strait shut down as much as possible and as long as possible, and they're going to blame Iran for it. You know. And well, Trump made quite a few statements, by the way, about ceasefire, about war and stuff. And you know what? Let's listen to some of the. I know many members of our community hate when I share some sound bites, but it's better to listen, right? Than I to waste time explaining what Trump said and so on. So let's go through a few statements.
Badly, as they should, but I don't think they're ready to do what they have to do. But I think they will be ready at some point.
You see, he's still pushing this false narrative that it's Iranians that are asking for negotiations, and it's false. It's a lie. Trump is just directly lying, right? Iran is not asking for negotiations, for sure, right? And they are making it very clear, but Trump continues to push this nonsense. Okay.
But we're doing very well with respect to that whole situation in Iran. We are talking to other countries about working with us on the policing of the strait. And I think we're getting good response. If we do, that's great. And if we don't, that's great.
He is lying again. There are no good response on this idea of conducting some patrols in a strait there. It's nonsense. It's nonsense. Western ruling class wants to keep this strait shut down. And all these talks and all this noise about strait is just deception operation, right? It's a deception, by the way. They have no intention to open this strait. Otherwise, I mean, why London's Lloyd's is not insuring the vessels?
Remember, like as an example, in many cases, they're NATO countries. We're always there for NATO. We're helping them with Ukraine. As many, it's got an ocean in between us. Doesn't affect us, but we've helped them. It'd be interesting to see what country wouldn't help us with a very small endeavor, which is just keeping the strait open. And by comparison, it's small because Iran has very little firepower left.
And he's going after NATO, saying that we are always there for NATO, but he's kind of complaining, right? But this is yet again, I would not be surprised at all if Trump, this freaking moron, has no freaking idea what's going on, really. He's just being played, by the way. And maybe he's honestly don't understand why strait is not open and why NATO countries are not sending their vessels. And maybe he actually has no freaking idea what's going on, because globalists and Zionists elements that are pulling the strings, right? They don't have to inform their puppets, right? They don't have to inform them about their actual plans. All they have to do is to tell them, you do this, right? The rest is not your business. And he was played, isn't it? He was lured into this trap. He launched the war alongside Israel, and now maybe he honestly don't understand what the hell is going on. I truly would not be surprised, man, because if you are among those decision makers among globalists, would you share the plan fully with Trump? You would not, isn't it? Why would you? So I think there is a probability that this idiot really has no freaking idea what's going on, honestly. And maybe he's actually kind of disappointed that NATO already did not send freaking armadas, right, to patrol the Strait of Hormuz. I mean, this guy is just something, isn't it? Some I have to explain, man, to him that globalists, Zionists, Western ruling class, they never had any intention to keep Strait open. They forced him basically to launch this war exactly for that purpose, to shut that freaking strait, right? And the navigation through the Gulf, to cut off China, by the way, from Middle Eastern energy sources, right? I spoke about this how many times before? I said many times, I mean, there might be new members, by the way, right now on a stream. And for them, if I may, I will repeat what is my take on the situation. I was predicting that this war would happen in the Middle East for a long time, right? And I was predicting it because in my reading of the big picture, Middle East is an important segment, right? Important part of the strategy that I think Western ruling class is deploying for at least several decades now, and will continue to deploy for another decade or two, right? It's a long-term strategy of the Western ruling class directed on the maintenance of the dominant position in this world and against China and Russia. And this Middle Eastern episode, this strategy has many chapters, right? Ukraine is one of the chapters, this proxy war that West is waging against Russia. Middle East is another one. There is African chapter. There is a Latin American chapter. There is a chapter of a global South, right? Philippines, Taiwan, and the rest of it, right? You name it. Right now, we are focused on Middle Eastern chapter, right? And I was saying that Western ruling class gonna launch a war there. They're gonna provoke a regional war, and their task, their goal will be to descend Iran into civil war on an ethnic and sectarian lines, then to spread this civil war throughout the region. And to achieve this, they will also try to provoke war between these Gulf monarchies and Iran, right? And they're clearly trying, by the way, Lindsey Graham just a few days ago was kind of begging Saudi Arabia to launch a war on Iran, right? So that was their plan of the Western ruling class, to engulf in a fire of a war on ethnic and sectarian lines, entire region, to shut down navigation in the Persian Gulf and through Hormuz Strait. And why they would want that, Western elites? Because 80%, by the way, most of the energy that comes out from this region goes to global South, right? Goes to Asia. China is one of the main importers of the energy from this region, China, right? And Western ruling class wants to cut off China from the Middle East, because that will be, of course, tremendous hit on the Chinese economy, absence of lack of energy from the region, some level of deficit that will create, which means even higher increase of energy cost and inflation, high rising inflation inside China. So this will be significantly damaging for Chinese economy. This will not destroy Chinese economy, but it's going to be damaging anyways, right? If West succeeds in cutting off China. But this is just a part of the plan. What they want is to then force China to increase its dependence. And it's at that point, they don't even have to do much, because China will have no option but to ultimately increase its imports of energy from Russia, right? What else they're going to do, man? They're going to increase their imports of energy from Russia. Already talks are in place, activated. Talks been activated between China and Russia about additional energy supplies, right? And so Western ruling class wants China to increase its imports from Russia up to a critical level, And at that point, Western elites will use their assets in both countries, in China and Russia, let's call them a fifth columns, to create tensions between Moscow and Beijing and to put fear in Beijing, in Chinese leadership, that Moscow is about to turn its back on China and, for example, cut off energy supplies or redirect energy supplies. And at that point, if Western elites succeed pushing the situation towards that moment, at that point, Chinese leadership might decide that they have no option but to take a military action and secure closest energy fields militarily. And that will mean war between China and Russia, because closest energy fields from China are in Kazakhstan and in Russia, of course. Kazakhstan is rich with oil, but nowhere close to Russia, obviously, right? So that's what their end game is of the Western elites, by the way. Eventually to provoke a war between China and Russia and destroy both these countries this way. And after that, probably, they will never ever allow any country in this world to even get closer to the point when that country will be able to challenge their Western dominance. This is the reason why I was saying, by the way, even before US and Israel launched this war on Iran, that neither Moscow, neither Beijing can afford Western ruling class to succeed in these plans, right? That they have, for example, in this particular case, in regards to Middle Eastern region. And both, by the way, Beijing and Moscow acted very successfully, I will say, in a diplomatic field, right? And I'm quite sure, by the way, one of the major reasons why Gulf monarchies managed to withstand pressure from the Western ruling class, and the reason why they did not enter the war against Iran is Moscow. I think Moscow was persuasive enough in the talks with the Saudi representatives to keep them out of this war, right? So that's what is happening, man. That's what is happening, right? And Middle East is just one chapter out of many of this decades-long strategy that Western ruling class is deploying. Anyways, there is another video that DD Geopolitics shared of Trump's statements.
Has been decimated economically in other ways. Are you ready to officially declare victory against Iran?
There's no reason to. I think I just say they're decimated, but I think that we've done damage to them right now. If we left right now, it would take them 10 years and more to rebuild. But I'm still not declaring it over. Our military is incredible. The job they've done is just incredible. And the problem is that when you look at fake stories written by you people, written by and generated by AI, it's incredible. And I just wonder, like, Jeff, do you know that these are fake stories? Did you know that the rally of 250,000 people, the supposed rally, was fake? Did you know?
I saw the reporting on it.
But you wrote about it. You talked about it. And you knew it was fake. It was AI generated.
No, I didn't know it was fake.
You did. You knew it. You knew it.
Sir,
Anybody that knew the country knew.
You see, this idiot man is saying that these videos of hundreds of thousands of people marching on the streets of Iranian cities were AI generated. How stupid is this creature, man? I don't know, man. This is just too bad, isn't it? And he is also saying there that he's not willing to declare war yet and get out of this conflict. Okay. They are hysterical. They are looking for off-ramp, but there is no good off-ramp now for them. There is no good off-ramp for them, man. In any ways, Trump humiliated US on a scale that I don't know, man, which other US president has done. I mean, I don't know, right? Marco Rubio came out and said publicly that they launched war against Iran because, well, Israel was planning to go ahead with the war anyways, and well, Iran would retaliate on our basis, so therefore, we had to attack first. What the hell are you talking about? You tell Israel then not to start the war. That's it. But they are in no position to say no to Israel, by the way, right? They are compromised. They are just freaking compromised, man, these people, right? And they will do whatever they've been told to do by whoever is blackmailing them, right? Mossad or CIA or MI6 or all together, right? Or globalists, by the way, and Zionists. It makes no difference, right? Anyways, that's enough, I guess, for Trump's statements. It's too much to listen to that idiot, isn't it? And also interesting nuance, by the way. I don't know if you have think about this, but this increase in oil prices will bring dozens of billions of dollars to American oil companies, to American energy companies. I can give you some more specific number. Oil prices have already surged past $100 per barrel due to fallout from the ongoing war in the Middle East. If they remain elevated this year, American companies will receive 63.4 billion boost from oil production, according to energy research company Rystad. $63.4 billion, by the way, going to go in the pockets of US energy companies if oil prices remain around $100, right? And there is a probability, if globalists did not open Strait of Hormuz, that oil prices might actually reach $200, $150 to $200 a barrel. And I made no mistake saying that if globalists will open the Strait of Hormuz, because it's globalists that are keeping it shut. Not the Iranians, by the way, but globalists, right? This is clear. Iranians said there any vessels, any commercial vessels from any country that is not engaged in a war against them can pass freely without any freaking issues through this Hormuz Strait. But vessels are businesses, companies, maritime companies are hesitant to pass through this strait because they have no insurance. And they don't have insurance because that's the decision of globalists, right? And Lloyd's of London is a globalist institution, right? It's a globalist tool, not yours and not mine, of course. Meanwhile, RIA Novosti is reporting that Iran threatens with their consequences in case of attacks on oil infrastructure. Tehran will destroy their infrastructure of US-linked oil companies in an attack on Iranian energy facilities. In case of attack on Iranian energy facilities, stated Ibrahim Zolfagari, spokesperson for the Khatam al-Anbir Central Commander. Okay, by the way, I mean, they may go ahead and target US interests, but you know what, I think Iran will exercise restraint, and despite strong statements, there are going to be no attacks, no massive attacks at least, from Iranian side on energy infrastructure of the neighboring countries, neither in Gulf monarchies, neither in Iraq, right? Because this will be counterproductive. This will only make the situation even more difficult for Iran and for the rest of the region. So therefore, they're going to be, I don't expect Iran to actually take action against the energy infrastructure of the neighboring countries, even if there is a US
economical presence there, financial presence there. Some energy facilities already was attacked by Iranians in case when those energy facilities, refineries, for example, were used to provide fuel for Fifth Navy, for example, of US that is usually stationed that has a headquarters in Bahrain, right? But other than that, Iran will exercise restraint, quite sure about it. And well, nowadays, of course, people are also paying attention to Bab al-Mandab Strait, which connects Red Sea, by the way, to Arabian Sea, right, and then Indian Ocean. Let's check this area, by the way, right, and this is Aden Strait, right, and this is this strait that Houthis might shut down. Houthis might shut down, according to their statements, if they will decide to get actively engaged in a war against countries that attacked Iran. And well, this also might be a big deal, of course. This also might be a big deal because if Houthis are capable of shutting down this strait, then well, it's not just the Red Sea, but Suez Channel is becoming irrelevant, right? Suez Channel is becoming irrelevant, and that will be hit first and foremost on Europe, on European economies, for sure. But yet again, Houthis, as of now at least, did not make even a single statement that they targeted either American vessels or Israeli vessels or anything. In past 2-3 weeks, we did not see no reports, isn't it, from Yemen about anything was targeted by them, and therefore probably they will stay out of this whole. Maybe they will target American vessels, military vessels, maybe, but I don't think they're gonna actually shut down this strait. But threat is there. Threats is there about it. Also, well, I already mentioned, dear friends, that according to some experts and economists reported about it, oil prices, if oil prices reach $150 to $200, that might trigger a global recession. Maybe, I mean, could be case, God knows, man, right? But yeah, could be case. Also, dear friends, I don't know if you are a subscriber to my Telegram or Twitter X page, but I shared this video. It's in French, but there is a subtitles, right? Translation, there is translation. And in this video, as far as I can tell, reporter of La Parisienne newspaper is asking MEPs, by the way, members of European Parliament, where Iran is on the map. And probably you know what is happening after that. These MEPs, by the way, these European lawmakers, have no freaking idea where Iran is. At least there in this video you can see several, right? I wonder, I mean, if someone would does a test of all members of the European Parliament, all of them, right? I wonder how many percentage of them will actually tell you where Iran is. And these are people that are voting for laws that are then influencing lives of their hundreds of millions of citizens of European Union. It's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame. Some of those MEPs were pointing at Bulgaria as Iran, some was pointing at Turkey, some at Saudi Arabia. They had no freaking idea, right? And these are people that are making decisions about political and geopolitical matters. Well, no wonder Europe is speeding up towards a freaking dark place, man. It is what it is, right? Also, you know, dear friends, Israel is waging a war against Libya too. Against Lebanon. also, and according to reports, Israeli military has already killed more than 800 civilians and more than 2,000 civilians were injured. And also reports are that Netanyahu's regime plans to call up nearly 500,000 reservists for a potential ground operation in Lebanon. This was reported by Israeli media originally. So maybe Israel is gearing up to occupy entire southern Lebanon, if not the more, right? And I just want to remind you, dear friends, that Tucker Carlson, American journalist, you all are familiar, of course, with this personality. Tucker Carlson announced a possible criminal prosecution of his by the U.S. authorities. CIA is preparing a request for a criminal prosecution against me. What is the crime? That I talked to people in Iran before the war, he said. Maybe he had some interview with some Iranian officials and something, and just because current his stance in regards to this U.S. forever wars does not go down well with the Zionists and the neocons, maybe they will actually go ahead and try to take him out, either by killing him or by putting him in jail. But I don't know, man. Probably Carlson also has some serious backup, right? Because I don't think he is acting alone, man. I just don't, right? Maybe I'm wrong on that, maybe not, but I think he is a part of some project, alternative conservative project, and because Republican Party is finished, right? Republican Party is dead, man, right? And to maintain this two-party system in place that worked this well for the neocons and for the rich and powerful, basically, right? For Epstein class, to maintain this two-party system in place, they have to do something with their both Democratic Party and Republican Party that are compromised, discredited tremendously, right? Tremendously. And I think Democrats will come up with some new faces, right, soon, maybe for next presidential election already. And I think Republicans will do the same. And in case of Democrats, these new faces might be, I don't know, man. People like people that were never affiliated with the system, at least this directly, right? Like Kai Kalinske, for example, blogger, like some journalists, Greenwald, for example, if he has any ambitions to get into politics. Some other people, there is they will come up with some new faces for Democratic Party. If of course this American ruling class will find their coming around with those people that I just mentioned. Maybe they already have approached Greenwald and he said, you know what, just back off from me, you corrupt motherfuckers. Maybe that was his reaction. Wouldn't be surprised at all. Maybe they approached Kyle Kalinske too, and he said the same, right? And other leftist figures there in America, right? And Tucker Carlson may be such a face on the right side of the aisle, right? Maybe, but I'm struggling to believe that he is absolutely independent and acting just on its own, right? But whatever the case, he probably has enemies, man. I have no doubt about it, and they will try to take him down. And if backup will not save him, then yeah, he should consider to flee US in that case. I don't know. Anyways, dear friends, I just wanted to share that Tucker Carlson is kind of expecting some trouble in US due to his public activity, and that's about it. There was no No more super chats, by the way. There was no more super chats on a Rumble to react to. There was no. Let me just check again. There was nothing also from Boosty and nothing from PayPal. Otherwise, I guess Anna would drop screenshot. And so this is it then. This is it for today's first live stream. This evening at 9 p.m. Moscow time, probably I will launch a second live stream with all the latest news that will be available for the time. And let me, before I go, dear friends, let me just remind you that after this stream ends, full video will be accessible through original links that I will publish on my Patreon and Boosty pages. Otherwise, on YouTube, if you go to my channel, you would not be able to see it there. It will be unlisted, right? Only through this original links, it will open on YouTube or Rumble. And also, I will upload full video on Patreon and Boosty too. That's the one thing I want to say. And so, if you like my work, and if you want to have access to full videos whenever you want, please consider to join our Patreon and Boosty community. It will be great support, by the way, of my work. Links are under this video in the description box and in the pinned commenter. And of course, you can use, by the way, PayPal and Boosty platforms for donations. This is also, of course, possibility. And I guess that's it, isn't it? What else should I say? I guess that's about it. Okay, dear friends, this is it for now. Have a wonderful day. Take care. And yes, this evening, 9 p.m., I will probably launch second live stream with all the latest news. Bye for now.